Let me tell you something that has been bothering me for a while now. I was standing in my kitchen last Tuesday, making a sandwich with bread I've been buying for probably 15 years. Same brand, same packaging, same spot on the shelf. And as I spread the butter across that slice, I stopped. Because something was off. The bread felt lighter. It tasted different, a little sweeter, a little more like air and less like actual bread. And I thought to myself, when did this happen? When did the food I trusted start becoming something else entirely? So I did what I always do when something doesn't sit right. I started digging. I pulled out old receipts. I compared ingredient labels. I went through USDA reports, industry filings, and consumer tracking databases. And what I found was not just disappointing, it was alarming, because it is not just one food that has changed. Dozens of the products we grew up trusting have been quietly reformulated, downsized, or rebuilt from the inside out with cheaper ingredients. And they did it hoping we would not notice. Today, I am going to walk you through 12 foods I have personally stopped buying, because they are not the same products anymore. Some of these are going to surprise you. Some of them are going to make you angry. But more importantly, for every single one of these, I am going to tell you what I am doing instead, because this is not about panic. It is about making smarter choices for your family and your pantry. Let us start with the one that broke my heart. Store-bought bread. And I am not talking about the cheap white bread that nobody expects much from. I am talking about the so-called whole wheat and multigrain loaves that families buy thinking they are making a healthy choice. If you pick up a loaf of most major brand whole wheat bread right now and compare the ingredient list to the same brand from even 5 years ago, you will find a very different product. Many have added more sugar or high fructose corn syrup. Several have replaced real whole wheat flour with a blend that is mostly enriched white flour with some whole wheat mixed in to justify the label. The loaf is lighter because they are pumping more air into it during production. You are literally paying more for less bread. That has more sugar in it than it used to. What I do instead is I bake my own bread. I know that sounds like a big commitment, but a simple, no-knead recipe takes about 10 minutes of active work. Flour, water, salt, yeast. 4 ingredients. I make 2 loaves a week and freeze 1. The cost per loaf comes out to roughly 40 cents, and I know exactly what is in it. For those of you building a long-term pantry, learning to bake bread from stored wheat berries is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. A 50-pound bag of hard red wheat berries stores for 25 years and will make you hundreds of loaves. The second food I stopped buying is commercial peanut butter. Now this one has been a slow change, and a lot of people have not caught on yet. The big-name brands that used to be roasted peanuts and salt have gradually added hydrogenated vegetable oils, sugar, and in some cases palm oil to their formulas. They did this because palm oil is significantly cheaper than peanut oil and it keeps the product from separating on the shelf. The problem is, you are no longer eating what your parents ate when they bought that same jar with that same label. You are eating a processed spread with fillers. And the price has gone up at the same time. One major brand went from a 16-ounce jar to a 15-ounce jar while raising the price by $1.20. That is shrinkflation and skimpflation happening to the same product at the same time. What I do instead is I buy the store brand natural peanut butter that lists only peanuts and salt. Yes, you have to stir it. Yes, you should store it upside down. But you are actually getting peanut butter. Even better, if your store has a grind-your-own station, use it. You watch the peanuts go in and the butter come out, nothing else. Number 3 is canned soup. I used to keep a shelf full of canned soup in my pantry, and I felt good about it. Quick meals, long shelf life, familiar comfort food. But when I started really reading labels a couple of years ago, I was stunned. The ingredient lists on most major brand condensed soups have ballooned. Where there used to be chicken, broth, noodles, and vegetables, now there are modified food starches, soy protein isolate, maltodextrin, and a list of things I cannot pronounce. One major brand's potato soup went from having potatoes as the second ingredient to having water, modified food starch, and then potatoes further down the list. They are using thickeners and fillers to replace actual food. The portion sizes also shrank. A can that used to be 10 3/4 ounces dropped to 10.5. That quarter ounce does not sound like much until you realize they sell billions of cans. What I do instead is I pressure can my own soups. A batch of chicken noodle soup makes about 7 quarts. It takes me an afternoon, and those jars last on my shelf for at least 18 months. The cost per jar works out to about $1.60 compared to $3.50 or more for the commercial version. And I promise you, it tastes like actual food. Number 4 might be the most controversial one on this list: orange juice. We all grew up thinking a glass of orange juice was a healthy way to start the day, but commercially produced orange juice today is a heavily engineered product. After the juice is squeezed, it goes through a process called deaeration, where the oxygen is removed, so it can be stored in massive tanks for up to a year without spoiling. The problem is that this process strips out most of the natural flavor. To make it taste like oranges again, companies add what they call flavor packs. These are chemical compounds derived from orange essence and oil, technically natural, but manufactured in a lab by the same fragrance companies that make perfumes. So when you drink that glass of orange juice, you are drinking something that sat in a tank for months and was then reflavored to taste like it just came from an orange. I stopped buying it entirely. Instead, I eat whole oranges when they are in season. I get the fiber, the actual vitamins, and none of the added processing. When I want juice, I squeeze it myself. 6 oranges make about 2 cups, and it costs roughly the same as the commercial carton once you account for the shrinkflation that has taken those cartons from 64 ounces down to 52. Food number 5 is yogurt. Specifically, the flavored yogurts that line entire walls of the dairy section. If you look at what is in most flavored yogurts today compared to a decade ago, you will find dramatically less actual fruit, more sugar or artificial sweeteners, and a growing list of thickeners like gelatin, pectin, and modified cornstarch. Some brands that used to contain real fruit pieces now use what the industry calls fruit preparations, which are basically fruit-flavored gels made primarily from sugar, water, and coloring with a small amount of fruit puree. The sugar content in a single 6-ounce cup of some popular brands is equivalent to eating a candy bar. I switched to buying plain whole milk yogurt and adding my own fruit. A 32-ounce tub of plain yogurt costs about the same as 4 of those little flavored cups. I add a spoonful of my home-canned berry preserves, and I get a breakfast that is actually nutritious. Even better, I have started making my own yogurt at home using just milk and a spoonful of existing yogurt as a starter. A gallon of milk makes a gallon of yogurt for about $3.50. Number 6 is sliced deli meat. I know this is a pantry preparedness channel, and we talk a lot about protein storage, so this one matters. Prepackaged deli meats have changed significantly. Many brands that used to sell sliced turkey breast or roast beef now sell what is called turkey breast product or beef product. That word product is a legal flag. It means the meat has been processed with water, fillers, starches, soy proteins, and flavor enhancers to increase the weight and volume while reducing the actual meat content. Some packages contain up to 30% added water and binders. You are paying $8 to $12 a pound for something that is not really a pound of meat. Instead of buying processed deli meat, I roast a whole turkey breast or chicken breast on the weekend, slice it myself, and portion it out for the week. It takes about 90 minutes and produces better meat at roughly half the cost per ounce. For long-term storage, I pressure can chicken and turkey breast. Jars of home canned chicken are one of the most versatile things in my pantry. The 7th food is breakfast cereal. This one is personal for me because I fed my kids cereal every morning for years, and I thought it was fine. But cereal has undergone some of the most aggressive cost-cutting in the entire food industry. Serving sizes have shrunk. Box sizes have dropped by 2 to 4 ounces, while prices climbed 20 to 40%. And the ingredient quality has declined. One popular family brand of frosted cereal went from a 24-ounce box to 21.7 ounces. The per-ounce price increased by over 50% compared to a few years ago. And that is before we talk about the ingredients. Many cereals have replaced real sugar with high-fructose corn syrup, added more artificial colors, and reduced the vitamin fortification that was once their primary nutritional selling point. I stopped buying cereal. Instead, my family eats oatmeal, homemade granola, eggs, or toast with peanut butter. All of these are cheaper per serving, more nutritious, and store far better long-term. A 25-pound bucket of rolled oats in Mylar with an oxygen absorber will last you 10 to 15 years. Try that with a box of cereal. Number 8 is cooking oil. This one flew under the radar for a lot of people. Several major brands of vegetable oil and canola oil have changed their sourcing and processing methods over the past few years. Some have shifted to lower-quality seed blends that are cheaper to produce. Others have reduced the volume from 48 ounces to 44 or even 40 ounces while keeping the bottle shape nearly identical. You would never notice unless you looked at the fine print on the label. And olive oil is even worse. Studies have found that a significant percentage of imported olive oil labeled as extra virgin does not actually meet the chemical standards for that classification. Some are blended with cheaper oils like sunflower or soybean oil. For cooking, I have switched to buying olive oil from domestic producers where the supply chain is shorter and more transparent. For deep pantry storage, I keep coconut oil because it has an incredibly long shelf life. It does not require refrigeration, and it is useful for both cooking and baking. I also render and can my own lard when I process pork, which stores beautifully, and our great-grandmothers would tell you it makes the best pie crust you have ever tasted. Food number 9 is frozen vegetables. Now, before you push back on this one, hear me out. I am not saying all frozen vegetables are bad, but several major brands have quietly reduced the bag sizes from 16 ounces to 12 or even 10 ounces while keeping the prices the same or higher. Some have also switched from individually quick-frozen whole vegetables to chopped or diced versions that contain more stems and lower-quality pieces. And if you look at the sourcing, a growing number of frozen vegetable brands are importing from overseas, where the agricultural standards and pesticide regulations are different from what we have here. For my family, I have moved toward buying fresh vegetables in season from local farms, blanching them myself, and freezing them in vacuum-sealed bags. A 20-pound case of green beans from a local farm costs me about $15 during harvest season. I blanch and freeze them in one afternoon, and they last a year in my chest freezer. The quality is incomparably better than anything in the frozen aisle. And of course, I also can vegetables for shelf-stable storage that does not require electricity. Number 10 is cheese. Real cheese. What passes for cheese in most grocery stores today would have been unrecognizable to your grandparents. Those individually wrapped slices are not cheese at all. They are labeled as cheese product or prepared cheese product because they do not contain enough actual cheese to legally call themselves cheese. But even the blocks and shredded bags have changed. Many shredded cheeses now contain cellulose powder, potato starch, and natamycin as anti-caking and preservation agents. The cellulose is literally wood pulp. You are eating sawdust to keep your shredded cheese from clumping. And the price per ounce has gone up 20 to 30% in the past 3 years. I buy block cheese now and shred it myself. It takes 30 seconds with a box grater. For pantry storage, hard cheeses like Parmesan can be wax-sealed and stored for months. I also make my own simple cheeses at home. A gallon of milk, some vinegar, and salt will give you fresh ricotta in about 30 minutes. It is one of those skills that feels fancy, but is actually incredibly simple and practical. Number 11 is canned tomatoes. This one concerns me deeply, because canned tomatoes are a foundation of so many pantry recipes. Several brands have reduced the amount of tomato in each can by adding more water or tomato juice to dilute the product. Some have switched from whole-peeled tomatoes to a mix of chopped pieces and puree that uses lower-grade tomatoes. And the BPA lining issue, while improving, is still a concern with cheaper brands. One brand I used to buy religiously changed its sourcing from domestic tomatoes to imported tomatoes from multiple countries without any change to the front label. You would only know if you read the fine print on the back. During tomato season, I buy bushels of Roma tomatoes from local farms. I do a massive canning day in August where I process 40 to 50 quarts of crushed tomatoes, tomato sauce, and salsa. It takes a full day with help from a friend, but those jars get me through the entire year. I know exactly where the tomatoes came from, what went into the jar, and that there is no BPA anywhere near my food. And finally, number 12. Honey. Real honey has become shockingly hard to find in the average grocery store. Studies by food safety researchers have found that a large percentage of honey sold in the United States has been ultra-filtered, a process that removes pollen and makes it impossible to trace the honey's origin. Why would they do that? Because it allows them to blend cheap imported honey, sometimes adulterated with corn syrup or rice syrup, without getting caught. The FDA has guidelines for honey labeling, but enforcement is minimal. Some products labeled as pure honey have been found to contain up to 30% corn syrup. I buy my honey directly from local beekeepers. I know them by name. I have seen their hives. A quart jar costs me about $12, and it is real, raw, unfiltered honey with all the pollen and enzymes intact. It stores indefinitely. I have jars in my pantry from 3 years ago that are just as good as the day I bought them. If you cannot find a local beekeeper, look for honey that is labeled with a specific regional origin and comes from a single source rather than a blend. Here is the bigger picture that I want you to take away from everything I just said. This is not about 12 individual products. This is about a fundamental shift in how food is manufactured and sold in this country. The food industry calls it reformulation. Consumer advocates call it skimpflation. Whatever you call it, the result is the same. You are paying more for products that contain less real food and more fillers, thickeners, sweeteners, and processed ingredients than ever before. A recent analysis found that the same basket of popular grocery brands now costs the average family over $700 more per year than it did 6 years ago. And about $41 of that increase came not from higher prices, but from getting less product in the same package. But here's what I want you to understand. You are not powerless in this. Every item I talked about today has a better alternative that you can make, source, or store yourself. And that is what building a real pantry is all about. It is not just about stacking cans on a shelf. It is about developing the skills and the supply chains to feed your family with food you actually trust. Learn to bake bread. Learn to can soup and tomatoes. Find a local beekeeper and a local farmer. Buy block cheese instead of shredded. Make your own yogurt. These are not radical acts. These are the same things your grandmother did every single week without thinking twice about it. Your pantry is your fortress, and a fortress is only as strong as what you put inside it. So let us stop filling it with products that are not what they used to be and start filling it with real food that you can count on. If this information was helpful to you, I would appreciate it if you would share it with someone in your life who needs to hear it. And if you are not subscribed yet, come join us. I put out new videos every Tuesday and Friday to help you build a pantry that actually protects your family. I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves.